The Yokosuka MXY-7 was a single-seat, rocket-powered, human-guided kamikaze attack aircraft deployed by Japan against Allied ships in the Pacific Ocean theater toward the end of World War II. Carried into battle as a parasite, typically on a Mitsubishi Betty bomber, members of the Jinrai Butai, the Japanese Thunder God's Corps, were charged with kamikaze attacks in defense of the Japanese mainland. Called the Ohka, or cherry blossom, by the Japanese, the Allied designation was Baka, Japanese for fool. With 852 units built, it had limited success despite its extremely fast dive attack speeds and a 1,200-kilogram aminal warhead. In 1943, Mitsuo Ohata, a pilot with the Japanese Navy 405th Transport Squadron, submitted a rudimentary design that detailed a purpose-built suicide aircraft. Ohta's design was ignored until spring of 1944 when it was picked up by Professor Taichiro Ogawa of the Aeronautical Research Institute of the University of Tokyo, who refined Ohta's design. Yet still, the Japanese Navy did not pay any real attention to the Ohka design until June 1944, when Japan was defeated in the Mariana Islands, a crushing defeat at the hand of the American Fifth Fleet. During this engagement, the American Fifth Fleet's fast carrier task force effectively neutralized the Japanese carrier air groups, destroying approximately 90% of their aircraft over the course of 2 days. This devastating loss underscored the vulnerability of the Japanese mainland to Allied attacks, prompting military leaders to adopt more desperate measures, including the deployment of suicide aircraft like the Ohka. The idea that originated by Ohta was given to the Naval Air Technical Arsenal at Yokosuka, and the new research project which officially began on the 16th of August, 1944, under codename Project Marudai, under Commander Masao Yamana. The original plan was to use KR-10 liquid-fuel rocket engines, which were being built in Nagasaki based on German Walther rocket engine plans, but ultimately the engineers changed to using solid rocket boosters due to cost and complexity concerns. The first unpowered prototypes and K-1 training versions, fitted with flaps and a landing skid, were completed in early September 1944. Later in the same month, the testing of rocket engines began in parallel. On the 23rd of October 1944, the first unmanned flight took place over Sagami Bay, southwest of Tokyo. 8 days later, the first manned flight using a K-1 training aircraft was conducted. The K-1, with 45 built, used water ballast instead of warhead and engines to provide pilots with a realistic handling experience. The water ballast was dumped before landing, but it remained a challenging aircraft to fly, with a landing speed of 210 kilometers per hour. The first successful test of a rocket-powered Ohka Type 11 took place on November 19, 1944, which led to the formal authorization of production under the designation MXY-7. While each of the prototypes had 3 fuselage-mounted plus 2 wing-mounted rocket boosters, the production version was to only have 3 solid-fueled rocket motors, each capable of 8 to 10 seconds of independent propulsion. The Ohka 11 was 6 meters long, 1.16 meters high, had a wingspan of 5.12 meters, and a wing area of 6 square meters. It was powered by 3 Type 4 Mark I Model 20 solid propellant rocket motors, each producing 2.62 kilonewtons of thrust, giving it a maximum speed of 648 kilometers per hour and a terminal dive velocity of 926 kilometers per hour, but a range of just 37 kilometers. Its armament was a singular 1,200-kilogram aminal warhead. In the early months of 1945, development commenced on the Model 21 variant of the Ohka. This new iteration featured a reduced warhead size of approximately 600 kilograms, only half of the warhead capacity found in the production Model 11 variant. Additionally, the Model 21 had a shorter wingspan to accommodate mounting beneath the smaller and faster Yokosuka P-1Y-1 Ginga bombers. Despite the promising concept, the efforts surrounding the Model 21 variant were ultimately abandoned before any prototypes were constructed. Simultaneously, work on another variant, the Model 22, began on February 15, 1945. This model aimed to incorporate the Hitachi Su-11 jet engine as its primary propulsion system. The first drop test of the Ohka Model 22 occurred on June 26, 1945, but ended in catastrophic failure when the aircraft exploded mid-flight. A subsequent flight test was scheduled for August 12, 1945, yet it too proved unsuccessful when the ignition of the jet engine occurred prematurely, forcing the mission's cancellation. Only 50 Model 22 units were completed before the conclusion of the war, none seeing action. Further developments included the Ohka Model 33, which was designed to utilize the Ni-20 turbojet engine, carried by the Nakajima G8N1 Renzan bomber. However, development was halted, and the prototype never completed. The Model 43, Ko and Otsu, was conceived to possess independent flight capability powered by a Ni-20 turbojet engine. The KO had folding wings and was designed to be catapult-launched from submarines. The Otsu, designed to be launched via catapult from caves, saw construction of a launch facility commenced in July 1945 on the Miura Peninsula, located south of Tokyo. And in August 1945, just before the end of the war, a wooden prototype underwent testing at this site, marking one of the last endeavors associated with the Ohka aircraft series. They, too, failed to see action. In September 1944, the Japanese Navy established the 721st Squadron, also known as the Divine Thunder Unit, Jinrai Butai, under the command of Captain Motoharu Okamura, stationed at Konoike Airfield in Ibaraki Prefecture, Japan. Although plans were made to establish a second unit, the 722nd Squadron, known as Torpedo, Tatsumaki, the personnel initially allocated to this new squadron were instead redirected as replacements for the 721st Squadron, consolidating the available resources. In November 1944, the first batch of 50 Ohka Type 11 aircraft was delivered to the aircraft carrier Shinano for transport to Leyte Gulf. However, before the Ohka could be deployed, the Shinano was torpedoed and sunk by the American submarine USS Archerfish on the 28th of November while en route. The Ohka's second deployment on the Unryu saw all 30 aircraft lost when, on the 19th of December 1944, the Unryu was torpedoed and sunk by the submarine USS Redfish on its way to Manila in the Philippines. Indeed, it was the explosion caused by the warheads of the Ohka planes stored on the lower hangar detonating that blew the bow off the ship. It was not until the 21st of March 1945 that the first combat mission involving the Ohka took place. On that date, the 321st Squadron launched from Konoye Airfield on the southern island of Kyushu. The attacking force consisted of 18 Mitsubishi G4M bombers of the 711th Squadron, led by Lieutenant Commander Goro Nonaka, each carrying one Ohka aircraft, and accompanied by 30 A6M50 fighters as escorts. Targeting the American fleet, the sortie ended in failure. Most of the bombers, along with their Ohka payloads, were intercepted and shot down by American carrier-based fighters before they could approach their intended targets. In response to this disastrous outcome, Japanese naval leadership re-evaluated their tactics and resolved that future Ohka missions would be conducted in smaller formations to reduce the likelihood of early detection and interception. The first Ohka successful kamikaze attack came on the 1st of April 1945 when an Ohka mission was launched off Okinawa, Japan, and damaged USS West Virginia, a Colorado-class battleship. The Ohka crashed into the ship's superstructure just forward of the secondary battery, and while the warhead penetrated to the second deck, it failed to detonate. A very lucky escape indeed. On the same day, a cache of 15 Ohka aircraft was captured by the United States Marines on Okinawa, who nicknamed them Baka, Japanese for fool, as the discovery was made on April Fool's Day. The first ship sunk by a Ohka attack was on the 12th of April, when a combat sortie saw USS Manert El Abala, an Allen M. Sumner-class destroyer, taking a fatal direct hit. The destroyer broke in two, her midship section obliterated. Despite further sorties, further success would not occur until the 4th of May. One Ohka hit the bridge of the USS Shea, causing extensive damage and casualties. The USS Gaiety was also damaged by an Ohka's near miss. Then, on the 11th of May, the USS Hugh W. Hadley, a Allen M. Sumner-class destroyer, was hit aft by an Ohka after a remarkable stand against a kamikaze onslaught, taking it out of action. Although its damage control parties managed to keep the ship afloat, it was deemed too damaged to repair and was decommissioned in December 1945. Americans on the receiving end of the attacks reported that, as the Ohka aircraft entered their final approaches, with the rocket boosters engaged, they were nearly unstoppable due to the fast speed. But the U.S. Navy soon adapted and concentrated on extending their defensive rings outward to intercept the G4M Ohka combination aircraft before the suicide mission could be launched. A smattering of unsuccessful attacks continued until the final Ohka attack took place on 22nd June 1945, with all 6 Ohka aircraft missing their targets. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button and leave a comment below. If you would like to see more content like this, please subscribe and hit the notification bell.